morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ruth Sekindi. I work with the Uganda Human Rights Commission. I'm the director in charge of complaints, investigations, and legal services. I want to bring my greetings from the chairperson of the Uganda Human Rights Commission. I was actually supposed to launch this report, but due to unforeseen issues, he had to appear before Parliament. He couldn't make it. But I think I'll be representing. And it's also good to see the chairperson of the Opportunities Commission. You're welcome, madam. I want to add my voice before the launching to thanking HRAPF for coming up with this study. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a study that has been is long overdue. When we're doing monitoring and our civic education in areas, especially around Kampala, the biggest challenge that people raise is the issue of unprepared arrests. The issue of when they're moving around looking for jobs because of the high unemployment, the arrests. There's a story of a gentleman who told me, one day I was in Makindye, so late in the night, his wife goes into labor. Allow me to tell this story because it touched my heart. He had brought a complaint to me. So the wife goes into labor at 2 in the a.m. So he gets the wife, starts walking to the nearest clinic. He knocks at the door and they tell him, sorry, the nurse is not there, or the midwife. So he manages to find a border rider who takes him a distance, maybe so many kilometers, to the near another clinic. So while the wife is in labor, he needed some money, and he didn't have the money because, you know, the baby's coming, he had to rush the wife, and he was carrying this woman. So he manages to put her on the border, then the head was coming out on the border, okay? The head of the baby was coming out. He managed to get her to that clinic, and there was a midwife who was willing to help. Then the midwife asked for 200,000, okay? The border asked for 50,000 because it was late in the night. So he had 60,000, and the border said, no, your wife has soiled my border because there was blood on the motorcycle. So he added another 10,000. The poor man paid 60,000 and decided to walk home. When he was walking home, he found a patrol vehicle of police. They stopped him. They asked him, can you identify yourself? He said, my name is so-and-so. I am taking my wife to hospital. Can you prove that you've just taken your wife to hospital? He said, I cannot prove, but I have taken my wife to hospital. Then they said, can you identify yourself? He said, I have no national ID. At the time, there were no national IDs. But I can you can go with me at home, and I'll give you, and I'll show you where I stay, and I can prove that I actually stay there. He said, no, you cannot prove who you are. Where do you work? He said, Nekosa. Nekosa means, I'm not a businessman, but I find my own employment. Okay? The man was rounded up, he was put on a truck, and taken to some prison. He spent 3 years. The relatives could not find him. He was charged for idle disorderly and sentenced to a prison farm where he had been working. By the time he came and said, I don't even know what happened to my wife. No one knew where I was. Ladies and gentlemen, the story I've just told you is true and a reflection of what many other Ugandans have been going through. Because of some laws that we have that are so hard to prove, but sometimes are oppressive on the poor. Ladies and gentlemen, when we say idle disorderly, and I thank the President for having come out to say this law should stop. Police should stop arresting people for idle disorderly. That stopped. But then another law called, in our penal code, called rogue and vagabond, is still being used. A few months ago, I was doing a baraza. Baraza is where we go to communities and we talk to them. And we train them on human rights. We sensitize them, we tell them to claim for their rights. So this gentleman came, a number of, the youth, they came and said, Madam, you're a lawyer. I said, yes. What does vagabond mean? So I tried to interpret it in my local language. Kuzuba azuba. You know what kuzuba azuba means? You are moving around without any reason why you're moving around. Because that is the nearest interpretation I could give. When you look, you have received this study, and this study is very important to us because it shall inform policy, it shall inform the security officers on why some laws are very oppressive, and they target the poor. And it was interesting to hear the findings of this report, because when you look at the places that are more notorious with slums, that is where most of these arrests are happening. But what do we attribute to slums? It is poverty. People are going without food, without shelter, without basic services, basic necessities. Okay? We are dealing with youth who are poor and needy, and many are resorting to drugs. And instead of rehabilitating them and putting them in rehab, what do? We arrest them because our laws say so. Okay? So, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at the interpretation of rogue and vagabond, many of you actually can qualify to be rogues and vagabonds on any given day. I am telling you the truth. Because it talks about people now, this is made the street children of people who go and collect arms. It was mainly used by the British to mean people who collect or give out, where you give out food, clothing to the poor. Those are arms, the basic services, necessities that were given, handouts that were given to the poor. Okay? So maybe you people in the room do not qualify to collect arms. But then there is a suspected person who has no visible means of subsistence and cannot give an account of him or herself. In the event that you do not have your national ID, for those that we are lucky enough to have, or responsible enough to have gotten one, if I asked you to account for yourself, can you, in the event that you do not have a job, and this law is talking about people who have no visible means of subsistence. Does everyone in this room have a visible means of subsistence? Does everyone have a national ID? Can you give an account of yourself? You're a rogue and vagabond. That is what it says. Ladies and gentlemen, the law goes on to say, a person found wandering upon or near any premise, just in the event that you are walking near this hotel, okay? You are found meandering, or just walking near these premises, or in a highway, in that road, okay? Or any place adjacent, or any public place, okay? At any such time or in such circumstances, and to the person who's going to arrest you, if that person can conclude that you're there for any illegal and disorderly purpose. Just seeing the way you dress, maybe you're in a miniskirt that goes up to here, or you are dressed not in a suit. You know, these lawyers love suits, but these are just clothing. We try to hide. They know what I mean. But in the event that you cannot explain yourself, and for me as a law enforcer, I think you're there illegally or for any idle purpose, then you qualify to be a rogue and vagabond. I was somewhere and I was listening to testimonies, and I was amazed at what happens in the city, where the youth were telling stories of how they sleep in phases. Did you know that to sleep for an hour you pay 500 shillings? Did you know? They have no housing, they have no shelter. And they were telling us stories that, look, for me to be able to sleep in some of the slums, I go and pay 500 shillings and sleep. After an hour, they wake you up. So that another person takes over to sleep. So what do you do in the meantime? You have to loiter the street. These are the stories that we are hearing. Stories that mean poverty. And because I have slept for an hour and I have nowhere to go, I'm waiting for the daybreak, I will be arrested on the street. And I'll be charged for rogue and vagabond or either disorderly. So that is why this study is very critical, ladies and gentlemen, because it targets, some of these laws target the most vulnerable people in our societies. And this should be, it shouldn't be acceptable. This is not acceptable. So ladies and gentlemen, I am not here to make a presentation, but I'm here to thank HRAPF for the good work they did, for the good study that they did, where you are looking at the cases where they came out with the convicts or the charges. I think the people who were charged? Okay. The people who were charged were 958. But that does not mean it was only 958 that were charged, that were arrested. Many more were arrested. So what happens therein? Many are arrested, and the stories that have been coming in is, if you don't have Chituwa Chidogo, I don't know what it's called, Chituwa Chidogo, you are not set free. If you don't have some money, then that means you'll end up in prison. I thank the report because they brought out the international, regional, and the national, the international standards with regard to human rights protection. And they elaborate how hard it is to prove some of these allegations. Can you prove who you are? Can you prove that you are not a rogue and vagabond? Okay? It is so hard to prove some of these offenses. They give a clear interpretation of these laws, these criminal laws that we have on our statute books, and give the implication that it has to the ordinary person, especially the youth. Majority of you in this room, I can see, are the youth, okay? And yet, quite often these laws have affected the youth because they're the ones who are unemployed. I'm not saying the senior members of this country are employed either, okay? But they're the ones who are usually fall prey to these arrests. And it was amazing how they related, because the justice system is interrelated and interlinked. When they arrest and then they go into the prison, the chain, and then it also creates overcrowding. And maybe when they're in prisons, they also learn new habits. And then they come out and they're still unemployed. And they have, you know, a conviction on their head. And the cycle continues and continues. Ladies and gentlemen, I am praying that everyone reads this report. I am praying and requesting you to share this study with others. And that you take some copies. I hope there are enough copies to take home. But I want to thank you for the good job that was done. I thank you. And how do we launch today? Okay. You want to report to launch? So I want everyone, does everyone have a copy? Let's put it up and launch the report. So today is 29. We hereby declare this. Does everyone have a copy? We hereby declare this report launched, and we thank HRAPF for it. Give them a hand clap. Thank you.